So what am I supposed to put up? Just the check-in?
Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Live, Love, and Mary Weiser. How are you doing today? I'm Lorraine Edwards.
That was my. That was just ignore it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, okay, thanks. Co-founder of A Single Mission business ministry that exists to engage, empower, and encourage single women to embrace their singleness, walk in their purpose, and prepare for the partner they desire. We are happy to have you here again with us today. If it's your first time, please like, subscribe. You can wait till you watch it to like it, because I always trip when people say like it and you haven't even watched it yet. What if you don't like it? I prefer that you not say anything. But if you do like it, please comment and subscribe and share it with your friends and family. We are back. This is kind of a part two of last week. Similar. So last week we talked about 7 things you should do to be more attractive to the one. And so we decided to flip it and say 7 things you should look for in the one. So it's not all about us. But before we jump in, we want to welcome back Ebony with us. Hey, E.
Hey y'all.
How you been?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little tired today, not gonna lie. So I gotta get hyped. I'm ready for the conversations.
All
Ready for
right.
the conversation.
We're excited to have you here again. And we want you all to check in. You know what that looks like. It's in the comments. Please respond. Don't just read them. Please respond. Hey, Susan, back with us again. We appreciate that as always.
Hey Susan.
The check-in is, what is a must-have trait for you in a partner? I want to see that in the chat. Now we got 4 people on here. I need you to come on now. Some of y'all been hanging in the background for a minute, so I need you to go ahead and just type it in the chat. Ain't nobody gonna call you out, but just, what is a must-have trait for you? E, I'm gonna let you answer that too. What's the must-have for you?
I was thinking. I guess I ought to know since I've been married for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what I have grown to want, and it's still a work in progress in our marriage, quite honestly, is true partnership. Like you have to be about equity in a relationship, not necessarily quality, but equity in a relationship, and true partnership. You know, like not being stuck in a mold of traditionally, men do this and women do that and that type of thing. You have to be down for doing what the marriage and the family needs. So that's what I would say.
Okay. I love that. And what I would say is, for me, must have, and that is that, and I'm going to come back to something you just said, a must have is a growth mindset. What do I mean by that? Mm-hmm. Somebody who doesn't see themselves as having arrived, and that they're always seeking to be a better husband, be a better father, be a better business person, be a better employee, be a better son or daughter, or, well, not daughter, but son, someone to be, that's a different conversation for a different day, but be, better, anything that they are, they're always seeking to learn and grow and improve. And I think that, well, what we call it in the Christian world is sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
What we call it in the, in the secular world, so to speak, is the growth mindset. But I think sanctification is God's growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you come as you are. I don't want you to try to fix anything before you get to me, because you can't do that. But once you come to me, my presence in your life is going to make you better,
Mm-hmm.
a better employee, a better husband, a better at everything. And so I believe if I meet someone who's constantly trying to learn and grow from the Bible, as well as other spiritual books, as well as non-spiritual books that could teach us truth is from God, no matter where you find it,
Right.
then there is no problem. There's no issue. There's no situation that we can't resolve if you have that mindset of constant improvement and growth and moving closer to the character that God wants you to be. So I'm really passionate about that.
I mean, you know how I feel about a growth mindset, so period. And I don't know if it was something that you and I were talking through, or somewhere I saw that, um paraphrasing,
Mhm.
that like you can't fix all of yourself, or you won't be perfect coming into a marriage, because there's some things that God is looking to perfect in you in that relationship.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, like, thinking that I gotta have every single duck in a row, or I gotta be, perfect, to your point, like how we come to Christ. That's not what he asks of us. He asks us to come, period.
Right.
And like in your marriage, now don't get it twisted. You shouldn't come with a whole heap ton of baggage. There is some work that needs to be done,
Right.
but
Right.
that not letting perfection, if you will, get in the way of progress. Because some of
Mhm.
that perfecting, that sanctifying, is going to happen within that relationship if
Right.
we are amenable to it.
Right. I was talking to some friends about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were talking. This sounds like it's a little off topic, but we're gonna bring it back. They were asking the question: is it okay for someone to just get baptized but then not be a part of the church? Like they just want to get baptized, but they want to kind of be on their own at home or whatever. And I hadn't been a part of the conversation from the beginning.
Hmm.
So when I came in, they were kind of filling me in, and I was just like, no, I don't. First of all, I don't believe in personal spirituality or personal religion. I
Right.
think that just the fact that Elohim is three in one
Hmm.
means that
That's right.
spirituality is done in community.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
said something that I had never thought before in its fullness, but then when I was just like, whoa, I knew it was the Holy Spirit. I said, there are things that I don't know about myself because I'm single.
Mm.
And
Mm.
when I started thinking about it, it's not just bad things. There are good things that I don't know about myself because I'm not in a partnership at that level for someone to be the recipient of that behavior or that
Mm.
character or that thing. There are things obviously that are might be negative about my character that I don't know because there's no one who has to deal with that, or
Mm.
because it's
Mm.
part of me. But I'm like, there's a whole lot that if I remain single for my whole life, that I will never know. Now, obviously, the things that are detrimental, the Holy Spirit is going to bring that to you, and that, but they're just things that come in the context of
Yeah.
marriage
Yeah.
that no one else would have access to. And if you never get married, you're never going to know that about yourself.
Mm.
And so I think that yeah, part of when you were saying that, no, you don't need to come perfect, because there are things that are going to happen in the marriage that is going to shape your character and sanctify and hone and all of that. I think that's part of the deal, that God is going to work on the things that are just kind of that he's like, you need to work on this. But if you never get married, that's not going to play out in your life.
Mm.
So it's not even going to manifest really in
Mhm.
your life,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
a way of thinking that I don't know that I think
Mhm.
until I have a husband, or if I ever have a husband. So I was just like,
Yes.
oh, that's kind of even how I feel about just Christianity and spirituality. Like that cannot be done in isolation, because how do I know that I love like Jesus loves if there's no one difficult to love? How do I
Mm-hmm.
know that I can navigate, conflict in a godly way? I can apply Matthew 18 if I stay away from people that
Mm-hmm.
could cause me. So all of that is just, to me, not something that can be done in isolation. It's all about community.
Ooh,
So,
girl.
so
You know my mind is on absolute crank right now. That is like that's bananas. Like that's literally I was sharing with you that I had a revelation this morning and that was really it. That was it.
mm,
I The Holy Spirit revealed to me something about myself, about my character, and I realized that it's a character flaw from how I was raised, but it is being exacerbated within my marriage.
mm,
And if I and I don't I believe that if I had never gotten married, like this thing would not be blowing up in my head like it is today.
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
100% because there would be no reason for it to.
mm-hmm,
Because this is a relationship that's pulling that's shining light on that character flaw.
yeah.
Wow.
Okay, that's crazy.
That is
Because
a little bit crazy.
just for the record, we did not talk about this before we got on here. This is not even what the topic is totally. Like, this is sort of, I mean, it leads into the topic. 7 things you should look for in the one. And if you watched last week, we talked about 7 things. Well, they're the same 7 things. We're just going to teach you how to apply it from looking at another person. And if you didn't see that one, we're going to put that up here or over here or one over there. And where you'll be able to link to that and see and watch that because it was really good. So the first thing we want to talk about is communication. And I'm just going to talk about some of the things. And then, Ebony, I want you to jump in here. Listen. Now, this should be basic, but we know that it's not because people hear, but they don't listen. And so listening is active, it's engaged. One of the things is putting away your devices or putting down your device, putting your eyes on the person, sharing feelings, not just facts.
Mm-hmm.
That's communication. Being interested. I was listening to a podcast on YouTube today, and the podcast is called Hardly Initiated. Now, I can't recommend it without reservation, but my reservations are very slight. There's some curse words occasionally or whatever, but the content that I've taken in has been really good. Today they were talking, and it's for men, but I think it's important for women to listen to stuff for men because
Yes.
you learn a lot.
Yes.
I would hope that some men might be listening to us just to learn something more about women and how we think as well. But he was talking about, what he looks for when he's looking for a woman. And he said one of the first questions he asked is, what books are you reading?
Mm-hmm.
And if she's like, I don't, well, what about podcasts or audio books? He wants to know, what are you putting inside of you?
Yes.
What can we then talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I've never read that book, what can you share? He's like, tell me about that book if someone answers. And so part of communication, we're not just talking about like just sharing your feelings or being deep or whatever, but it's like, can we just talk to each other? Like, you have to be married for 10, 20, 50 years. Sex ain't gonna carry all of that. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna talk about that in the future, but like, you're not gonna be able to do that all day long, every day for the rest of 50 years. What are you talking about? How are you growing together? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let you jump in there, Ebony.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It and that comes from being friends, from liking each other.
Right.
If you don't like this person, like you don't like the person that you are thinking of aligning yourself with forever, like that, don't do that. Because that's fixing to be a boring at the least forever.
Right.
Can you have a conversation with this person? Can you just talk about anything? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is this person, interested in what's happening in the world? Is this person able to hold a conversation without, kind of drifting to the left? Communication really is about it's about the verbal and the nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
Can you all sit together and hold space with each other and be comfortable in that? If
Mm-hmm.
you can't be in the same space and just be quiet together, someone has to be doing something or saying something or whatever, you ought to be able to be quiet and hold space with one another,
Right.
because that is a strengthening of that connection, you know
Right.
and you have to be able to talk about deep things and nothing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my husband and I have the wildest Seinfeld moments. We have a whole hour conversation. We can talk about one thing. We
Mm-hmm.
done bounced all over from talking about our son giggling to, you know, type of fish he caught, like whatever. And I love that about our relationship, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to hold conversations with one another. You have to be able to communicate verbally and non-verbally.
Right. No, I agree. And I do think that it needs to run the gamut because it should be fun, but then it also should be serious when it needs to be. It should be,
Hmm.
laughing when it needs to be deep, and then it needs to be surface because you don't always want to be like all thoughtful and just
Right.
introspective and like
Hmm.
deep stuff.
Hmm.
But then you also don't want to be just laughing all the time because that gets old. Like how many people
Hmm.
I've been in relationships where the person is always joking and
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, you just get tired of laughing.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
I really am over that right now. So you need to be you need to be interested, and it doesn't mean that you have to like everything the person likes.
Right.
But you need to be interested in what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
you don't need to pretend that you are if you're not
Hmm.
all the time. Like, I mean, every conversation is not going to be a, brain buster and just like, whoo, that's just amazing. But if you, I was just telling Ebony and another friend, you know, that anyway, the situation is long, but the point is, I was saying like I've dated tall men and short men, I've dated fat men and white and skinny men, I've dated white men and black men, but I've never dated a dumb man. And y'all like be tripping on that, but I'm like, to be in a relationship with someone that I can't have an intelligent conversation with, if I can't have one, I know I'm not going to have 500. So like when you think about, I mean, way more than 500, obviously, but when you think about who are you looking for, you need to be able to communicate, and
Hmm.
they need to be able to communicate because we talked about you last week. They need to be able to communicate, and don't sell yourself short because you just like them
Yeah.
when you realize I actually am bored whenever I'm actually with them. Like when I
Yeah.
have to spend extended period of time, I'm kind of bored with them.
Listen,
That's a no-go. That is a no-go.
not only is it a no-go, it is an in for the enemy.
Mm.
It is an in for the
Mhm.
enemy. If you are bored with your mate, Satan will use that.
Yeah, yeah,
Period.
he will. Because someone else is gonna come along that's real interesting.
100%. 100%. Even if
So,
they just interested temporarily, but the fact that you are so bored, or that you have that feeling, that longing for more, Satan
mhm,
will use that.
yes.
So don't set yourself up for that one.
And you need to, and just one more thing on communication. They need to be the kind of person that allows you to share your feelings without it being awkward. Like somebody who can't, who's always just like, oh, you don't need to cry. They always trying to stifle whatever the emotion is that you're feeling. If you're angry, they're trying to resolve that. If you're sad, they're trying to resolve that. You can't, that's going to kill what's inside of you,
Hmm.
and it's going
Yeah.
to keep you disconnected from that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. You
So
have to hold space.
when you have a balance, someone who listens to you and really just remembers even what you said. Like they can refer back to where it's appropriate. And someone who talks, you don't want to do all the talking and you don't want to do all the listening. There needs to be a balance um,
Mhm.
in that space. The next thing is trust. So I would say that some of the things that I relate to trust is like, how can you tell that somebody that you're interested in might be trustworthy? One thing is like that they have long-term healthy relationships. Like if they have had friends for a long period of time, that says that you could see that that's a healthy interaction. That's going to be a strong indicator that they're a trustworthy person, because no one's going to be friends with you forever if you not a trustworthy person.
Mhm.
You know, now there may be other reasons if they don't have long-term friendships. There may be other reasons. I'm not saying it means they're not trustworthy, but if they do have those long-term friendships, then that's a really positive indicator. They're just basically honest. They keep their commitments. They
Mhm.
admit when they're wrong. That makes you trustworthy. What do you think, Ebony?
I would say that they do what they say, from the big things to the little things. You
Mhm.
know, whether they, if they tell you that they're going to call you or come see you and they don't, and that's a pattern, then,
Mhm.
that to me would be a red flag for trust.
Mhm.
And it could be a situation where they just don't manage their time well.
Mhm.
But either, even if that's the issue, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, then I can't trust you. I can't, even if you don't manage your time well, that means I can't trust you to be on time. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? I can't trust you to show up when you say you're going to show up. So
Mhm.
those things, while it may seem little, you think about that over forever, that's going to get on your nerves. When you can't plan, because then you can't plan anything, or you're gonna be caught off guard.
Mhm.
I'm totally not saying that my husband is not trustworthy, and wherever this dude is, he's 7 minutes away from wherever he's supposed to be.
Mhm.
If somebody call him and say, you on your way, I'm 7 minutes away. He on the other side of town. He ain't got in their
Not a
rocket.
small town.
Not a small town. He ain't got in their rocket. You know good well he'll get there in 7 minutes. But that's just kind of what he does. But you have to be able to count on that when this person says this, I'm going to do this, then they will do it, because that also is, I'm going to hold space for you. You were just talking about being able, a person not suppressing what you're feeling. I'm going to
Mhm.
hold space for you. I'm going to protect you.
Mhm.
I'm going to be true to you.
Right.
And when you see patterns of inconsistency in what they're saying, then you know it can erode trust.
Yeah. So I just want to interject right here that the things that we're talking about, none of us are at 100% of these things. Like
Right.
no one's a perfect communicator, perfect, perfectly affectionate, and all that stuff that we have talked about last week and that we will talk about. But trust, I kind of feel like you need to be all the way with that, because to
Yeah.
me, to be a little bit untrustworthy is to be untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And so we're not saying that if you're running late one time that you're just not a trustworthy person. We're saying that if our whole relationship is you being late for stuff, then I got an issue, especially because I don't like when people are late. I just hate it. Some people are a little bit more, kind of casual about that or whatever. So that might not be a thing for them as far as time.
Mhm.
But when you say you're going to be somewhere, then be there. Like
Mhm.
for most of us, 99% of the time, there ain't nothing stopping us from being there other than we just choose not to. So,
Mhm.
so I think keeping their word, it was actually the next thing on my list. So you jumped on that. So those are things that you can look at before you get deep into a relationship. You can see if someone just says, I'm going to call you, or if you might have tentative plans, but then those things can't happen and they are like, let me call and say, hey, this is happening, I'm not sure if we're gonna, those are just simple things that reflect your commitment to just keeping your word and being a trustworthy person.
Mm-hmm.
Next is affection. Um, they do small things just to be kind. You know, a lot of times we think there has to be some big grand gestures or whatever, but affection is really just saying, I'm thinking about you, I like you, I want you to know that I appreciate you. It's small, big, in between, whatever. They're intentional about making you smile. Like they do things, they say things, those types of things. Ebony, what you got?
Yeah, this is a what I want to say. This is a challenge for me because um I didn't grow up receiving a lot of like physical affection.
Mm-hmm.
Um so when I got married, I didn't know how to give that. And that's huge for my husband. My husband is super affectionate. Um and I didn't know how to do that. And I still struggle with it. And like it's a constant conversation with my therapist, like trying to get to the root of that. um but I try to be very intentional about how I show up that way for my husband, because I know it's huge for him. And I'm not, like you said, not 100% at all.
Mm-hmm.
um but it's important, and it's especially important if it's important to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that's important to you, and you see that your person is struggling with that, that's a conversation you want to have immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't think that the more we'll be together, the more they'll see that that's my thing. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
It's not gonna happen. And I'm speaking, transparently about myself. That has not been the evolution. I had to choose to do the work and want to do the work and continue to do the work, because I continue to struggle with it. you
Mm-hmm.
know but my husband is like, he's always like, buying me little things, or doing things for me. Like, my whole office space is his idea, because he wanted me to have a comfortable space. But if it's a thing for you, then pay attention to it, and model it, but also don't ignore it if your person is not showing that.
Right. Um, I think that one thing that I see that's important, and I just kind of noticed when I've been attracted to a guy who does things for other people, like that is a huge turn on for me. That's huge, because I think that what I want to get across is that this person is not just doing this stuff for you, because you can do stuff to kind of impress someone at the beginning, when you're starting a relationship or whatever.
Hmm.
But when you can sit back and observe how they interact with other people, how they treat other people, they're maybe a coworker or their sibling or parent or whatever, and you can see that they actually take time to think about other people
Yeah.
and do stuff to show them appreciation and love and affection. Then that is just attractive, because you know that you will be the recipient of that as well. But if, you know, obviously people have different relationships with, their parents or whatever, and some of those are struggles. But if you got to remind him that it's his mother's birthday, or that it's Mother's Day, and that's important to her, and that's kind of like, you might have to remind him about your birthday and your anniversary, and if that's important to you,
Hmm.
then you're going to feel like he doesn't care, which
Hmm.
totally may not be the case, but that's just not his strong suit. But if you're not communicating that back to communication, then you're going to have a problem. Someone who learns your love language and attends to it. If you're just like, well, I don't really, because this is true of me. I don't really care about gifts. Like, I don't really need you to get me a gift on my birthday, or I don't really need gifts. Like, that's, if you get me something that is if you get me something, obviously I'm going to show gratitude. if you get me something thoughtful that is like, oh, you heard me say I
Mhm.
like this thing, and then you remembered, and you, so that to me means that you were attending to me.
Right.
You know, it wasn't just about buying something and then thinking you were done.
Mhm.
But if I say, you know, my love language, which it is, you know, quality time and physical touch, then you don't spend any time with me, but then you buy me a bunch of gifts, then yeah, I'm gonna roll out on you. Cause because
Mhm.
remember, we're talking about we're not high schoolers. I
Right.
don't think there are any high schools on here, but if you are, hey, but that'd be great because you can learn this stuff early and not,
Yeah.
you know, dig the ditches that, you know, some of us have dug in our life. But if you are um in, you know, you've been dating for a while, you're like, you're looking towards somebody to marry. And this is not like, you have to think about, okay, how am I going to handle this in 5 years? Like, I may try to brush over this stuff now,
Mhm.
but in 5 years, I'm going to be real over it. In
Mhm.
10 years, I'm gonna want to put him in a ditch somewhere. You know, like,
Mhm.
this is real life. And we're talking about, some of us are, you know, 30, 40, 50, and we may have another 30 years to go. Like, I'm not trying to be trying to figure out where to store all this crap that you buy me, when all I want is for you to spend time with me every day and be intentional about that. So learning your love language and attending to that. And then, you know, reaching for you, touching you. For me, that's important. Touch, you know, like, obviously before you're married, we're talking appropriately, but touch, you know,
Mhm.
that's a thing for me. And, you know, knowing it is, does he, when you reach for him, does he reach for you, or is that matching up, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. S- So the other thing, this is not a fully formed thought, so I apologize, y'all. I'm
That's
externally
what this show
processing.
is about.
Um, sometimes, sometimes our significants will love us the way that they want to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about the love language, if your significant is not loving you the way that you want to be loved, but they're showing you their love language, if you will, I would say pay attention to that. And that is a red flag, but I would say pay attention to that in this is probably more appropriate for your last episode, but check yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I loving them the way that they want to be loved? Because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes that's what's happening. They
Yes.
are they are feeling empty. Their love tank is empty, and so they are, wanting to be loved that way.
Mm-hmm. No, I I have, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're in the hole right now.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. All right, words. So you speak, you're genuine when you talk. He, because we're, you know, this, we're we looking for someone who expresses empathy, someone who compliments you and others. They're not just saying, you know, sweet, charming stuff just to get you. Like, when you can see that they have that same attitude and spirit toward other people. They say thank you, sorry, and please when appropriate. Ebony, what you got? I'm sure you got plenty.
I mean, yeah, I agree with all of that. And there's no gaslighting, there's no weaponizing. Language matters. And so they are intentional and purposeful and thoughtful about the things that they say.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, you shouldn't confide in them something vulnerable and then it's used against you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely not.
You
Absolutely not.
shouldn't be vulnerable and say, I'm feeling this way, and have them say, well, you shouldn't. Why would you feel that? You shouldn't feel that. No gaslighting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. And I think that affirming language, even if you don't agree with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you can affirm their feelings about something.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are dismissive with your words, then that has a long-term impact that you really almost never see the depth of that impact.
Yeah.
Because when someone has, kind of communicated or shared with you, just so we talked about, allow, share feelings, not facts, and also allow you to share feelings without awkwardness. That's awkward when someone dismisses your feelings or your opinion or your thoughts or whatever,
Yeah.
whether they agree or not. And so being affirming in your words, but also just basic stuff, like, to me, well, maybe it's not basic, so I'll just say, when someone is doing a good job at something, even if it has nothing to do with you, like, praise them, express gratitude, express praise to them, help them to see, themselves the way that you see them. If that's what you're really thinking about them, then a lot of times, people, many people struggle with self-esteem or just have moments of, but if you are constantly uplifting and affirming, I'm not saying feeding someone's ego because they have no self-esteem and are insecure. That's not what we're talking about. But you should be, like, a lot of times we withhold that kind of stuff because we feel like, oh, I don't want to give them a big head, or I don't want to, make them think, they the junk or whatever. It's like, no, but if you're in a relationship, why would you not want them to not obviously be egotistical? Why would you not want them to feel good about themselves? First of all, why would you not want anybody to feel good about themselves that's in your sphere of influence? Like, why would you want someone to feel bad or not feel anything? But if you genuinely value them, why would you not want to praise them? Why would you not want to show them gratitude? Why would you not want to uplift and affirm them?
And you need to push through. If that is not your natural propensity, you need to push through that. And I'm speaking to Ebony on that, because it wasn't my natural propensity, to affirm my husband. But when I saw how much it, like, lifted his head and poked out his chest, and he was like, I'm like, okay, this is good. And I tell my husband often, there's no one better than him in his industry. What he does, the work that he does, there's no one better than him. And I believe that. So the other thing about that affirmation and uplifting folks is to be genuine with it, right? So don't just say it for the sake of saying it, but you want to be, you want to be genuine with it. And if it's not your thing, you got to figure out how to make it so. Particularly, it's especially important for women to affirm men. It's especially important, particularly if a man of color, because the world is stacked against him. And so it's important for him to hear his home should be, his relationship should be a safe space. And so it's important for him to get that affirmation. And don't just assume because he's a man that he's feeling himself and he knows he's all that. Don't make that assumption. You into him so that what he puts out is coming from a place of being fulfilled and not a place of want.
Okay. Yeah, we got a lot more to go. So so we could either go a little long or we could do part 2, but I don't want to really be shortchanging this, because I just think it's important. Part of our goal is to number one, help single women embrace their singleness, because I believe that if you don't have a life that you love when you're single, you're going to have a life you hate when you're married. Point blank, period. And it's going to spike for a little bit because you married and you think that's the junk, and it's going to turn into a mess. So we certainly want that. We want you to walk in purpose, and we've talked about that, and we'll talk about that some more. But we also want to prepare you for the partner that you desire. And so we try to prepare you as a person last week, but we also want to prepare you to be making good choices this week. So if you all give us permission, we'll probably do part 2. If Ebony can be with us next week, I'm not sure, but because there's we got 3 whole other things to talk about. And I don't want to jump from expressing love and feelings because, a lot of times we believe, and usually it's guys who kind of think like this, but there are women who think like this too. Was, if I told you I loved you already, like why do you need to hear that like every day? Like, I mean, you don't need to hear that every day. You don't need to hear, that I really am attracted to you, or I think you're beautiful, or whatever. Why do I gotta tell you that every day? But when someone, even if that, like you said, is not their natural propensity, but you light up and you can express that, obviously at the beginning that you may not, because y'all are not deep enough for you to express that. But as you grow along and grow in the relationship, you want somebody who can express their feelings for you and not be kind of embarrassed or ashamed about that, or feel like it makes them weak or soft or whatever kind of craziness that men be thinking sometimes. But I'm like, because again, I do not have that quote. I'm gonna just put it in the description because I love this quote, but I didn't bring it with me because I didn't think about it at the time. Where in this book that I really like called Letters to Young Lovers, she talks about how damaging it is to relationships when somebody refuses to express love, like verbalize their love for someone. It kills you. It kills the soul, and it kills love in the other person. And so this isn't just like kind of a by the way, oh, well, maybe I can live without that. No, you're not going to be able to live happily without that constant. And you should, obviously, we said last week that you should be expressing that as well, even if that might not be your thing. You need to, this ain't about it being your thing. It's about it becoming your thing. Whatever ain't your thing, you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you at a 500, if you at a 5 and you need to be at a 85, then you just got some work to do. You need to get there. We want happy, thriving, beautiful, wonderful, amazing relationships. God created marriage. We believe in marriage, and we believe that when marriage is done right, it could be such a beautiful, amazing thing, not just for you and your spouse, but for the community, for the church, for the world.
Yep.
The breakdown of the family is the breakdown of society.
100%.
Where does the family start? The family starts with two people that bring their lives together, and then they start having children. Where's the legacy? Is the legacy one of love and joy and affection and all of that, or is it one of anger and resistance and separation and all of this ugly stuff? That's not God's ideal. And so even though a lot of people are not believing in marriage that much, or anymore, because they're of what they have seen, I believe.
Sure.
I think in our heart, I think almost everybody in their absolute core wants it, because I believe God created us for that type of partnership in marriage. But when you see what's out in the world, you just like, forget that. I'm not interested in none of that. So I'm gonna just do my thing over here. And so we're going to come back hopefully next week and do part 2. And if Ebony can't join us, maybe we'll record that. Because I want her to be a part of this conversation, because we are about to be out of time here. So just take in what you've gotten. Look at yourself. Go back to next week and look at that. Where are you on all those things? Like, really evaluate yourself. Don't just do a brain check. Do a paper check. Where am I on communication? Where am I on trust? Am I a trustworthy person? Am I affectionate? How do I do that? My words, do I affirm people, or I'm just like, no, I'm not trying to? Or your body, time, and spirituality is what we're going to talk about next week. But evaluate yourself. And then if you're in a relationship, come on, evaluate your partner, and maybe sit down with your partner and watch this and talk about it. Like, we want to have a healthy, happy relationship. But if your partner doesn't want that, then maybe you have the wrong partner. Now, we're not talking about marriage, because if you're married, then you got to seek a therapist.
That's another conversation.
That's that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
We're talking to single people. But if you're in a relationship where that's not happening, if it's not happening when you dating, it's going to be worse when you get married or if you get married. So evaluate yourself, evaluate your partner, evaluate your relationship, and see where you need to go with that. When we talk about the reason that I say the partner, I don't really like the word spouse. I use partner because of what you said at the beginning. You want a partnership. You want somebody who we're on the same team. And if you're on the same team, that means if there's a deficit over here,
Yeah.
I'm not kicking you off the team. I'm not going to another team. We're going to work on the deficit. If I can't do free throws, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the gym an hour earlier and practice my free throws. But if you can't do layups, then you're going to go to the gym. So while I'm doing free throws on this basket, you're going to do layups on that basket so that we can be a strong team. But if I just look at your deficits and be like, you, or I just look at mine and don't look at them, that's unbalanced. So we got through communication, affection, and words. Check yourself. You got a whole week.
Mm-hmm.
You got a whole week. And you know what's coming next. Body, time, and spirituality. So you can already start with that. And we want you to have healthy, happy relationships. Just want to share one scripture with you. James chapter 3, verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. This whole show is about wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And we want you, and wisdom is not something that you just get in here. Wisdom is demonstrated by what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would like to invite you to do this evaluation, check yourself, and become a better partner.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you have one now or you don't, you can still become a better partner for who you will have in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it also just makes you a better person, makes you a better friend, it makes you a better child, it makes you a better mother, father, it makes you just better. It makes you a better follower of Jesus Christ.
I want to highlight what Renee said. She said, I asked the Lord to show me me. And that's where it starts. You know, asking, being vulnerable and asking God to really show you, show me me. That's the way that you gain that wisdom. And that's the beginning of that transformation. Once she shows you, then you got to be willing to do the work, because if you ask him to show you, he's going to show you. So be prepared and be prepared to do the work. And you will come out better on the other side.
Yes, absolutely. And we just want to invite you again we are having a webinar, and this is the link. The link is in the comments as well, that you can sign up for that webinar. That we're asking the question, how to know if he's the one. But the interesting thing about it is we're going to help you understand if you are the one, so that you can better evaluate if he is the one. So we're going to put all of that together in a webinar. You can go to the link. I think registration closes in a couple of days. I'm not sure the exact date, but we would love to have you join us. So thank you, Ebony, again for this great conversation. We hope that you all were blessed, and we hope that you will go out and make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless you.
Bye all.